Hello, I'm Hal Ottaway with the Wichita Postcard Club. I grew up at an amusement park, and my father collected steam engines. And the collection of postcards you see today belonged to him, and I inherited him after he passed away in 2003. But he was interested in not only the engines themselves, but the catalogs, the advertising materials they did, including postcards. So let's start by looking at the J.I. Case Company out of Racine, Wisconsin. They're one of the companies that have continued to exist through the years. They have an interesting logo. Let me show it to you. Their logo is this eagle sitting on top of the world just to the left of the smokestack of this steam traction engine. Really, these are made for plowing, moving, and thrashing for power, belt power, for all kinds of farm pieces of machinery. And they're effectively a steam-powered ancestor of our modern farm tractor. This is an advertising postcard from them. You see the Case Eagle logo there. This is the smallest little case engine that they made. I think it was a 6 horsepower, but it was available for sale. You can see here on the postcard for $500. They also had a steel separator at the other end on the right edge of this postcard that was used for thrashing the wheat. It was all wheat or grain. It was all belt powered from the steam engine back to the thrashing machine, and that's how they put it all together. This too is an advertising postcard. Here is a Case steamroller building country roads. See another picture of this just here in a minute. If you like music and are a fan of the blues, you probably have heard of a song about a steamroller. Here is a postcard featuring a steamroller up close. James Taylor and Elvis both sang steamroller blues songs, and as well as many, many other entertainers in years past. I just thought that Taylor and Elvis were two names that you would recognize instead of going way back in the blues. But this is a steamroller, and you see instead of the two front wheels, it has a roller. And you notice also on the rear wheels, it has no lugs. It's smooth. So the two rear wheels would be smoothing the ground or surface, road surface, as well as the roller up front. It weighed 10 tons. Just think of it. You can see here you could buy one for cash at $19.80 or $1,980, or on time for a little bit more, $2,200. But it's an interesting advertising postcard from Case. Now, here's kind of a tongue-in-cheek deal, but I've seen several different ones, and they're all similar. I think they're on the up and up, but they're showing probably at a fair, a county fair or something, where they drew this kind of a crowd. But it's probably a not too expensive garden, or it's probably a not too expensive tractor, or a plow, a plow that a person could sit in and probably pull with the horse. But in this case, they say the plow a man can pull. Here, for the amusement of everybody, they show a man bent over and another guy riding his back, like our kids used to do me on the living room floor. But fun little, rather inexpensive, I would imagine, plow that would have been just ideal for gardens on farms or in town for that matter. Engines and everything were all new. Think about it. We made this transition in this card from steam power to gas or kerosene power. People didn't have an older brother or a dad that could tell them all the tricks about how these things worked. If they had the opportunity, maybe they would go to a school like this in Kansas City, Missouri. This is the Ray Auto and Tractor School. They say on this advertising postcard that they are the only school giving real field practice on different types of tractor engines. And there are 3 different tractors there. They're plowing up a storm, just learning the fine points of keeping that tractor going or starting it or stopping it or turning it and pulling these additional machinery pieces behind them. That's an advertising card really for the tractor school. Case made a number of different sizes of their steam traction engines. I showed in that second card where they were thrashing. That was the smallest one, I think, a 6 horsepower. And this is next to the largest one. This is a 110 horsepower case. It's huge. My dad had one of these. I've been around them. I know what they smell like, and they smell great anytime you burn coal or wood or stuff. But the engines and just wonderful. My dad so loved restoring and learning about them and making them work again. This is the real photo card. As you can see, it was a plowing scene near Larned, Kansas, out in the western part of the state. Probably not a advertising card, but a card that you might have found on a rack here in Wichita or certainly out there in Larned, I hope. They're pulling a plow, and then you see some horse-drawn equipment behind that. This is a reverse or a rear view of that 110 horse case to show you how tall it was with that cab and everything. You can see a man standing just inside the door. Well, here they're pulling a plow and then several discs and then I guess a seeder here on the end. But just think of all of these operations that maybe they used to have to do with horses, say, back and forth and back and forth. But here they're doing 4 operations in the one swoop, making a trail there on that prairie sod. This is a real photo postcard. It's not a advertising one. This is another real photo card showing a tractor, a case tractor, and they're pulling a 6-bottom plow there. Who knows? They're all posing for the photographer that day for sure. We're going back to steam engines. This is an 8-bottom plow. This could have been a demonstration where maybe people came out from town to see this, but I don't think it was a case advertising postcard, but that's what it's doing. Here's a kind of a bird's eye view of road equipment, road machinery, all case products had been purchased in Sumner County, Tennessee. It says this was another complete outfit of case road machinery that's been bought by the Sumner County. So certainly they were trying to improve their streets and their roads in town and maybe some of the roads leading into town. It was a big problem. Little by little, good roads became more fashionable when it benefited and enjoyed them. This is the road rollers, the steam case advertising rollers. They look like they're about to fall over, like they're on a slant. but that's because they were building the Atlanta Automobile Racetrack. Pretty great. Certainly had a big job to do there again. And you can see the big rear wheels don't have any lugs on them. They too are smoothing just like the roller at the front. This was they called it a stunt, but this is a device that they brought. I have it in my Wichita collection. I have a postcard showing one of these inclines and a steam engine, both on a flat car that they brought into Wichita for one of our expositions in about 1908, 1909, right in there. Then they would have taken both of those off of the flat car and done a demonstration like they're doing here. They were interested in showing the ability of a case engine as a hill climber, its ability to climb a hill. And this is a pretty steep incline, as you can see. I think this is one of the first postcards that Case did showing this. I say that because everyone seems to be kind of close to the engine. This is all before OSHA's. They're not being protected like we are more hopefully today, but they're kind of close, so hopefully nothing bad happened that day. But this was their hill climbing demonstration. This is a similar demonstration maybe a year or so later, and you can see fencing better keeping these onlookers, everybody at a distance, thank goodness. The flags are flying. It must have been a beautiful day, and folks really enjoyed seeing the Case steam engine on the big incline. Now here we transition to Case tractors. They too had the ability to hill climb. They too would show this incline stunt, county fairs, state fairs, anywhere where farmers might be assembled, come together. The machinery from lots of different companies were making farm tractors and plows and all kinds of discs, all of that sort of thing. This is the Case tractor doing this. We're going to look at some of the Rumley products out of LaPorte, Indiana. This is the advanced steam engine, all belted up to a separator at the other end of the picture. You can see a pretty good sized stack of straw at the other end. That this is probably maybe the second or third day, or maybe just the second day of a serious thrashing. There in the middle, you see the uprights on a wagon where they would have brought the shocks of wheat in from the field with pitchforks, would have pitched them into this separator for thrashing. This is a card that just kind of beat up. You can see it's probably the worst in the collection, but kind of rough edges and corners and bends, and I'm not too proud of it, other than I've never seen another one, which I've been looking for, to replace and upgrade this one. But I'm happy to have this one. It's a very unusual card in that they're showing a Rumley automatic baling press. And so they might have been making bales out of hay or alfalfa or even the straw from thrashing. I guess any of those, like the straw from thrashing, might have been mixed with hay and might have been used as animal feed. But it's a interesting card. It's been being belt powered by one of the oil pulls that Rumley made. We talk about the oil pulls. This is a good picture of the oil pull. You see the radiator out front. As I understand it, it used oil in the cooling system rather than water. It must have worked well. They not published, but they manufactured many of these. My dad had several Rumley oil pulls in various sizes. This is showing their incredible pulling power. I'm always kind of wonder about some of the pictures like this and some more that we'll see. They may have done a little photoshopping back then too, but maybe it's all on the up and up. Maybe this is all true, but it's a good picture and it's an advertising postcard from the oil pull tractor made by Rumley. Here's a Rumley oil pull pulling two binders. And before the combine that we have today, they used to pull a binder behind a tractor, but here we're able to pull two at the same time, apparently. This would cut the wheat off pretty close to the ground, several inches at least. Then they would collect the straw with the wheat heads and wrap some binding twine around it, make a bundle that was then kicked off onto the field. Then they would just continue making these bundles. You can see one right there in the foreground, right behind the tractor itself. Those were later collected on wagons and then brought to the separator for threshing. This just shows the power of these big tractors and steam engines before them. But this is a Rumley oil pull making a sharp turn, pulling 5 drills or seeding devices, I think. But just amazing. Think of the time saver this would have been if you had a big farm or a ranch or something. These were used all over the Montana, the Dakotas, and Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, all of this wheat area, planting and working with crops. Here's the oil pull plowing, and then it says they're seeding, and then it says harrowing. I'm not sure about a harrower, but I guess that's what I'm seeing here to the left. Pretty cool. This is another Rumley oil pull advertising postcard. This too is the same thing. They're threshing again. It's a nice view of that looking down the belt toward the separator and threshing and men with pitchforks working hard. This is a oil pull advertising postcard. Here this tractor down at the left end is pulling all of these wagons. Some of them appear to have grain, sacks of grain in there. We can't see or know for sure, but this is amazing. It was up in North Dakota. See big grain elevators. A nice side view of Rumley oil pull pulling a bottom plow. Just really handsome. Advertising postcard again. Something similar, but a different advertising card. And only 6 bottom plow there, I guess. Here's a School of Oil Engineering banner being painted by hand in a art department someplace, or maybe the sign painter's shop or whatever. But if you weren't familiar with Rumley oil pull tractor, that might be overlooked, say, in a dealer's stock. It's something that we thought that kind of needed to be in the collection. Pretty neat. This is where all of those Rumley oil pulls, or shouldn't say all, but this is where I imagine the majority were made and built here in LaPorte, Indiana. What a wonderful thing to have that much employment, that many people, hundreds of people, depending on jobs and the working here at the Advanced Rumley Company. The Rumley Company also made a gas pull tractor. I'm not sure if my dad had one of these or not. A different kind of radiator you can see, and they're pulling a plow and some kind of a roller behind the plow. I'm not sure about that, but there's a lot of things, answering questions about what's going on here, what are they doing, or what is it? My friend Vince Chapman from Tulsa has been so good. He came this afternoon to look at this too, but he's been so good about helping me identify and telling me stories. He remembers my dad, kind of what he had, or when he sold it, or where he bought it, things like that. The collectors, when they get together, they talk about, just like we do with postcards. Here is a Christmas greeting, probably sent out by a man or woman, a family that had a shop or a dealership in one of these smaller towns or communities. Sent that out as a mailer to their customers' mailing list. And how nice. It's not official really from the company, but they took some pains to really make this into a quality Christmas postcard. Happy to have it. I've not seen another one. A little bit of edgeware. Postcard. This is a real photo postcard. It was used in 1926. You can see they're harvesting, threshing in Kinsley, Kansas. He's pulling a combine, not a self-powered like we have today in the field, but the one in between, kind of. After the binder came a combine kind of like this, being pulled by a Rumley oil pull. This is a advertising card. I'm so glad to see it, to have it. It's from Wichita, Kansas. It's a printed card. Probably, well, who knows where it was printed. It doesn't matter. But this building, thank goodness, still stands in downtown Wichita in what they call the Old Town District now. I'm not sure if it's apartments or what yet, but it's there. And if you look up at each corner, you see these circles. And inside the circle, there's a big R. Somebody said that was Rolls Royce, but I corrected him and I said, I think it's Rumley. So I think I'm right. Here's the postcard that kind of proves the proof is in the pudding right here. Kind of a tough card to find. I don't remember seeing it around. There may be a real photo version. We don't know, or I don't know. But an interesting card from Rumley right here in Wichita. Now I want to show a few more different kinds of engines and manufacturers that were used here on the Great Plains and beyond. This is a Altman Taylor tractor, I hope, and he's pulling 3 wagon loads of oil pipe. In this part of the country, north, we had a lot of oil play in the 20s and 30s and maybe even earlier. But here's the oil derrick behind. They had these oil fields, and that brought so much employment, and towns were established, and workers, schools, and people would bring families. It was just an ongoing population boom. Certainly brought wealth to landowners and speculators, all of that. But it's a neat card. I'm not sure about the bull moose part. In 1912, Teddy Roosevelt ran on the Bull Moose Party for president. I don't know that that had anything to do with Teddy. Maybe that was just a nickname for this tractor. I'm not sure, but it's an interesting, real photo, not a advertising card per se. Here's a card that you just go through cards at a dealer's table. This one just excited me because for what it's showing. It says C. Rower, which I guess is the owner, the landowner maybe, but he's stacking alfalfa. You can see this device here in the center, ropes probably leading off to it. Here they're able to lift this load of alfalfa onto this stack, and there's a man with a pitchfork up top, but horses. It's just I think it tells a lot about this kind of work that was done on many farms and ranches, a real time saver, and think of how would they have gotten it up there otherwise. But this is a very cool stacking alfalfa, real photo postcard. I'm not calling it an advertising card, but it belongs in a collection like we have of early farm equipment. Here's just a nice horizontal view. Good. There's some wind, but it's not just blowing like 60 like sometimes it does. Because this is out at Great Bend, Kansas, which is north and west of where we are here in Wichita. But it's thrashing wheat. You can see this enormous pile of straw over here to the right edge. They've been doing this a while. Several wagons collecting bundles, bringing them in from the wheat field. And this appears to be, and I'm no expert, but Vince and my dad and other collectors would be able to identify. I think this is the Huber return flue engine. I'm going to show you another one in a minute. They had just almost like a circus-like canvas edging to their canopy that was on top. And that would have given some sun relief to the engineer who was keeping it steaming and keeping it going with the power and so forth. This is a cute little card. It's not an advertising card, but there's no cancellation or anything. But Vince was able to tell me that that's a Tom Thumb gas engine, a stationary engine. And it was made by the International Harvester Company, IHC, which I think still goes today. But this is an engine probably brand new, and it's on the trucks. This little wagon business. I can remember my dad collecting stationary engines, loving it when he was able to buy original trucks where they might have been delivered to a farm or to a equipment shop or something on those trucks. But it makes it nice if you're going to take an engine like this, you've restored it and painted it. And if you're going to take it to a display or a show, an engine show someplace, if you have it on trucks, it's so cool to be able to kind of pull it around a little bit. This is a stationary engine manufacturer in East Moline, Illinois. It was the Root and Vanderroot Engineering Company. This was one of their stationary engines. They were powered. They were just such a labor-saving device. We kind of looked at some other small engines earlier, but it could be belt-driven, and it primarily used to like pump water, grind grain, saw firewood, run washing machines even inside a house. But you saw that little Tom Thumb, that was a small engine, and this one probably looks old, it looks larger to me. But anyway, this is the advertising card for that stationary engine. This is the Huber return flue steam engine that we saw thrashing just a cart or two back. And with that fancy little canopy on top giving shade to the engineer. This is an advertising postcard put out by them. The company was in Marion, Ohio. Huber also made a steamroller. And while this is not an advertising card, it sure could be, because, golly, we're able to see their name and everything. It's a nice close-up. It's a real photo card. You see the smooth roller here. You're seeing the smooth rear wheels again on the Huber, too. No lugs on these wheels. It was all to smooth a road surface and make it so you didn't have the ruts in trying to drain roads to keep them from being a big muddy mess. Now, this is a card that normally I could take a magnifying glass and look here at the fire, the smoke box here at the front of the engine underneath the smokestack. But this smoke box would have probably had the name of the manufacturer of this engine. But it's fuzzy, it's not as sharp detailed. My old eyes can't read and identify. But that's no problem for a collector. They all have books, catalogs. They could go through this looking for this type of smokestack, or it's just wonderful how collectors are able to identify and see what they're looking at. The farm family out here obviously posing for the photographer, and it's all belted up. So it may be belted to a grinder, it might be belted to a threshing machine. In the background, you can see just a bit of the vaneless windmill that would have pumped water out of the ground for livestock or homes or both. Steam engines were also found on sawmills. I can remember going to the Ozarks with my dad, finding he had found back in the hills a steam engine survived. I think the sawmill had probably been sold and taken away, but the steam engine was there. While this engine is pointed the other way, it may have been having something to do with dragging some of these logs. I don't know. I'm not saying that this engine powered this sawmill, but they did. It's possible. This was up at Weeping Water, Nebraska, and it just says a sawmill scene. So somebody that was taking real photo cards, this was great. This is a nice scene. Just look at those logs and this big one in front. Any of them are bigger than a telephone pole. Think about felling these trees and smoothing them down, getting rid of the branches off of them, then loading them in probably a wagon pulled by horses, or maybe in some cases with an engine like this. But just enormous amount of work and terrifying in terms of accidents that might have happened with rolling logs, people getting crushed and hurt. It was hard work, and it was just really difficult. This is one that I did look at this smoke box here at the right underneath the smokestack, and I can see the name that this is a Peerless, Peerless, Peerless steam engine, and it has a fancy top too. I don't know that my dad ever owned a Peerless. You can see here what they called a lamp or a light that was there, a coal oil lamp that could have been lit at night if they got just a little bit more will be finished, or stories like that, but it would have put some light on the road or there in the field getting back home. It's a nice real photo card. It's not a advertising card, but it almost could be. I have two cards here of Reeves, Reeves, Reeves steam engines. You can see that this big Reeves has these wide rear wheels. I'm not sure if this is the way, if this has had an extension rim added onto it to give it more worth to move it. I think Reeves probably had wide rear wheels to begin with, but it's providing the power to pull this plow through the soil. I see a water wagon right behind the engine, probably a hopper up here with some fuel, coal or wood maybe. This is another Reeves engine, and you can see both of them have this curved canopy up on top. He too is pulling, maybe a disc or something, and maybe that last is a seating machine. But here on the front, look here, we have a buffalo skull that they've probably found on the field. They've wired it up there right above the smoke box door. And on top of the smokestack, you see this several feet. That's called a spark arrestor. That would have hopefully held the sparks inside the smokestack and not let them blow out into the field, always thinking about possible fires. Different times of the year, we've had, I started to say prairie fires in western Kansas so bad. It's just several weeks ago where a lot of destruction happened. This is an advertising postcard for the Fairbanks Morris gas tractor. There's room there above this text where they could have taken, the dealer could have taken this card to probably the newspaper office, gotten their name put in there and the town and so forth where they had their business, and have mailed that out to a mailing list. Or they might have just taken a stack of these to a county fair or a state fair where they had a demonstration and they were showing their material, all the different kinds of things that Fairbanks Morris made. They did a lot of scales too. To see a Fairbanks Morris tractor, I'm not sure if my dad had one of those or not, but it's a great postcard in beautiful condition, advertising postcard. Oh, here we go. This is an International Harvester Titan tractor on the right, pulling all of these wagons. And they're up there in Western Canada, says an overland train. Well, I guess probably so. Not sure what they were hauling, if it was grain or ore or what, but that would have been a job for the big Titan tractor that you see there on the right. Just really glorious looking. Here's one of my favorite cards. This is a black and white advertising card showing the Avery Company undermounted steam engine. Now, all of the other steam engines we've been looking at had the governor, the pistons, flywheel, and all that on top of the boiler. Well, Avery came along, decided they would make a steam engine with all of this machinery underneath the boiler. I think it was pretty successful, and they must have sold a lot of them. Thank goodness they made this beautiful postcard. It's made even more beautiful because it's embossed, and a good job of embossing. It's just a joy to see and to feel, really. It's unused. We don't know exactly when. It's one of those that I haven't seen another of, and just happy to have it. Who could pass this one up? This is a Vigar Scott steam engine. Beautiful, colorful. It looks like it was in a circus parade, maybe. Notice the spark arrestor on top of its smokestack. Here's the governor up here that would have been going around and around. It's just a beautiful, all painted fresh from the factory and pretty fancy looking. It is an advertising postcard with more texting on the reverse too. This is a Waterloo Boy tractor advertising postcard. It is real photo also. It might have even been taken in a studio or something. There's some shadows and so forth, but it just looks, there's no background really, or it just looks so pristine, wonderful. Waterloo Boy tractors were made in Waterloo, Iowa. The Waterloo Boy tractor was sold out to John Deere. tractor companies would do that. They would buy a company and be able to buy also, I guess, their patents on some feature that maybe they had developed that then, like a company like John Deere, would have been able to incorporate in a new model of a John Deere tractor. But this is a really keen, real photo advertising postcard with advertising more messages on the back. This is the last card, folks, but I think it's just a honey. It's not an advertising card. It's a killer, I think, real photo postcard. If you can make it closer and see what's happening here. The standing man is putting wheat or grain into these sacks. The two seated men are each sewing the top edge up. You can see they just get in all the wheat they can or grain. This man on the right, you can see down here off of his belt, he has a whole bunch of these cut twines of some sort. He would have finished and reached down there, got another piece of twine, threaded his needle, probably a great big steel needle, and then start sewing. Just look at these bags over here on the left and how many stitches were involved. A stitch up that bag. Then think of how heavy they would have been. I have no idea how heavy, but this is how the grain apparently at this time and in this area was collected, where today they just dump it in a truck and take it to the grain elevator, dump it out of that into the grain elevator. But back then in this location, they had to sack it and sew up the top. I've never seen another occupational postcard like this showing these three great guys doing their sewing technique with such good detail and expressions. What fun. It's been great to have you all here and to show everything. Now we stay tuned. Now don't leave, because now we have a little bit of fun stuff. We're going to show you several postcards and try to bring them to life. Stay, watch with this.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then.
Well, he wants me to read this. This is The Iron Giants Fall Silent. By the 1920s, the steam traction engine had given way to the lighter, faster gasoline and kerosene tractor. The postcards in this collection captured the brief, thundering moment when iron giants ruled the prairie, when smoke on the horizon meant harvest, and a new machine could transform a family's fortunes overnight. Thank you very, very much. Bill Burton, to please unmute yourself. Tell us about any comments.
We have a real trove of comments today, as a matter of fact.
Bully.
Yes, a lot of people. For some reason, must have been a good talk.
Well, we had fun doing it.
Larissa Cox has asked, what's the reverse side of the advertising cards?
Well, it just depends. They were often something that would have been given out at the dealership. Here's the back one. Where am I here? Can you see that? Okay. What else, Bill?
Thanks, Hal.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Shabuddin asks, anyone who lives near Anderson, South Carolina might want to see Dean Hunter's collection of old farm equipment. Dean is my daughter, father-in-law. Contact me if you're interested. He has a great collection of farm equipment. And that's a plug, I assume, Sean.
How nice. Thank you, Shav.
Alan Mann asks, it's good to see that the littering was in fashion back in 1905. I don't quite understand that, Alan Mann.
There was one postcard which showed a fair ground. You could see lots of litter on the floor. So I was just making the comment that nothing has changed over 120 years.
That could be. You say on the floor.
It was one of the incline cards, Hal.
Oh.
It was out of doors, but...
Well, yes, I see what you mean, yes.
Cindy Entrican says it's still a beautiful card. Hal, I love your cards. The colors are so vivid, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry about messing that up, Cindy. Jim Potter says, Harrower, a piece of equipment pulled behind, it's a harrower.
Harrower?
Is that Harrower?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. A piece of equipment pulled behind horses or early tractors to cultivate soil. Farmers used it after plowing to break up the large clods of dirt, to kill weeds, to smooth the seed bed for planting.
Okay.
So that's what a harrow. I always thought it was HRROW period, but it's harrower.
Okay.
True, Jim. Jack Davis says I collect agricultural cards and will be donating them to the Montana State University in Bozeman. This is a land-based university, and they really will be in their special collection in the library. Jack, is this a serious collection that they have?
Yes, it is a serious collection. Hal did a great job. He's got some super cards that are fabulous. My collection is very wide range. I have about 800 or 900 cards, and it's just a wide range of material that's related to agriculture and advertising.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Robert Bell says, I have a more recent China plate featuring a Robert Bell engine, the photo of steam engines. I also have a metal engine with the same name. My name is Robert Bell. I know of no tie in my family. I was wondering if you or any others have cards or others things from the company.
From the Robert Bell Company. I'll ask Vince Chapman, who's here. Maybe he'll know or run into something sometime.
I'm holding up the plate so you can see it.
Yes, I can see it. It's nice.
Yep.
What fun. You need
also-
that. I'm glad you have it.
I've actually got a metal piece from a Robert Bell tractor with Robert Bell. A friend of mine saw it on Facebook Marketplace, gave me a call, said, you got to get this now.
You suppose it was kind of like a nameplate? Yeah.
I could bring it. It's sitting in another room. It's yay by yay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
I'd also put a note up about the harrow. The comment there is correct. I used to help at a community garden, and we had a 58 gas-powered Massey Ferguson or Massey Harris. I forget what it was. We used to use the harrow to level the ground after you plowed it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
All right, that sort of gets to the end. Could I ask a question though about once you plowed up the earth, then you bring the harrow over it to break up the clods? Didn't that essentially lead to wind erosion of the soil?
Our plot was smaller. Now we had just 4 acres, so it wasn't an issue.
But during the Depression, the loss of the soil was huge, and wasn't that precipitated by the plowing in that form?
I think so.
And just plowing in general.
Because it looks in all the illustrations as though it's just straight line plowing, not curvilinear.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. When I went to school in Lincoln, Kansas, which is very agricultural. Every year, back in the 50s, even to today, they do an agricultural education thing with all the children in the grade school. And it has to do with soil conservation and retention of the moisture in the soil. In years past, the classwork would talk about planting hedgerows, also about the importance of not plowing in straight lines, but doing where you today, if you drive through countryside, you see that the fields are plowed in a curving line. You see banks built up, different techniques used to prevent the soil from being caught by the wind blowing away. At the same time, you also see a whole lot more fields that are, if they're not growing grain, they have something growing on them just to keep the moisture in the soil and to help replenish minerals or whatever that would be there.
Great. Thank you.
David Freud asked, oh, go ahead, sir.
If I could add one other thing, I can just imagine we had this small, ordinary farm tractor. One person got it stuck twice, not me, in a wet spot. The first time we managed to pull it out with another tractor. The second time we had to bring in a tracked vehicle to pull it out. Seeing these vehicles and the weight of them, can you imagine if you ever got it stuck? Even our just small one, it was very difficult. A couple times we did it manually using chains and all that sort of stuff and putting fill underneath it. But can you imagine the danger? And
be horrible.
Of this? I just thought I'd throw that in.
That's good. Real work.
David Freud asks, does anybody know about a book of the transformative effects of the appearance of these tractors? David?
Oh, I'm just wondering, surely somebody has written such a book and I'm not aware of it, but the effect on the culture and agricultural production at that time must have been night and day between before and after, when these steam-driven and other kind of motive-powered tractors appeared.
I think you're right. Amazing.
Yeah,
okay,
so
that's what I've got.
Okay, thank you.
All of the postcards that you showed were agricultural equipment. Was that because that was your father's interest, or did they have other kinds of equipment? Because I have two, well, they're actually small photographs the size of postcards of a crane that seem from the same era, and the men standing around are all wearing suits, which is, but it's out in the field. It looks like it's out on the prairie.
My dad grew up on a farm. He had 5 brothers. My dad and my uncle really liked engines. They just loved the idea of finding an old steam engine and restoring it, making it run again. That was kind of the way they got started. It kind of grew like Topsy. My uncle kind of stepped aside, and he got into steam cars, did other things, motorcycles, and my dad continued with the engines, early model gas tractors, and those stationary engines too. That was just the whole thing. I grew up not only at an amusement park, but with him going to junkyards or going to places. He would establish a friendship with the men that worked in the junkyard, and he would go back around maybe once or twice a year. He would say, oh, they had saved him something or show him something. It was fun. It was a real hobby. I went for the postcards, pinback buttons, watch fobs, things like that. He collected the real deal. So,
Hal, when your father bought one of these engines, would he drive it home on the road like the guy with the lawnmower?
No, no. He had a big truck or several trucks, or sometimes hire somebody to do something. But I can remember cold and my toes, just as a little kid, my toes would get so cold. But anyway, Saturdays were wonderful days to go. I would be off from school and we'd get in the car or the truck. There'd usually be my dad and an adult friend. I would be in the middle just as a little kid. It was just marvelous. Chapman, who's here from Tulsa, he was one of my dad's good friends. He's helped me with this, just going through them. I went through all of the cards with him. He explained and told me lots more. So this isn't my hobby, but the postcards are. So that's how that works.
How many tractors did your dad have? How many tractors did your dad have?
He's passed away, but he had several. I don't know, Vince. Well, I'd say, well, he probably had 15 or 20 steam engines. He had quite a few. Some's good, more's better.
So was he ever using them as attractions or anything at your amusement park, or was it just?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Once a year in the 50s, there were enough older people still around that liked all of this or remembered it. And they had their Antique Engine and Thrasher Association. They would have this annual show at Joyland Park. And they even, or my dad built this incline, and they showed that stunt that Case had built and carried all around the country, but they demonstrated that. And they had a pony brake, something that would measure power. But that only lasted 5 or 6 years, I think, that the people started passing away or going to a care home or something. It was a big job, lots of work. It's like lots of things. Without other people there to help, it gets kind of old and you find something else to do.
Well,
Alan Van has, oh, go ahead, sorry. I'm holding.
This is Mike Fairley in Seattle. I was just going to comment that they still have some of these steam tractor shows, steam plowing matches in the state of Washington, up near the Canadian border. They're still very, very well attended. Usually I find out about them the week after they happen, but they still have them. The other comment that someone just mentioned about the weight of these machines is that you sometimes see real photo postcards of the steam tractor that has crashed through a bridge because the bridges were not made for heavy equipment like that. They were made for Model T Fords. That's just a comment on his that these heavy tractors did break through bridges and was a photo opportunity for the photo historians.
I agree. Thank you, Mike.
Alan Mann has pointed out that there is a, where did it go? Oh, yes, jumped up. There's a road roller association in the UK. He even gives the link if anybody wants to check it out.
Oh, Alan? Really? That's neat. Thank you, Alan.
I have a comment again. This is Dave Freund. I just checked with AI. And I found Steam Power on the American Farm, written by Raymond Wick. I believe that's a W-I-K, Wick. Widely considered the definitive historical text covering the social, economic, and technical impacts of steam engines on rural American life. So I'd never heard of it, but it sounds like very informative in relation to Hal's terrific talk.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Robert Bell has added something now about, he says tractors also changed things like horses not being needed. Yeah. My mother and grandmother remembered horses sent overseas around the World War II era as they were not needed so much for work.
Well, and of course, World War I, too, just frightful number. Remember the 101 Ranch in Oklahoma? They were a Wild West show like or similar to Buffalo Bill, not as big, but they were in England when World War I started, and the British government confiscated all of their horses, and they had to go back to Oklahoma without any horses. Their others went to war. Just horrible. But that was kind of the end of the 101 Ranch Wild West show.
Cindy Innikin says, good thing he owns some land for all those steam engines.
Yes, Joyland was 40 acres, but there was close to the entrance to Joyland, there was a field, and I can remember one year or several years, he planted it with wheat. I was there with him. Thank goodness I was a little kid, but he was with his pitchfork doing all this stuff alone, getting ready for the engine show a week or so later. But where they did do thrashing, they did do that incline stunt, things like that. Any other comments? Or you all have been so nice.
Chabelain's in here again. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's Sherry Valdivia. When I grew up, I always saw pictures of horses plowing. My grandpa had an older tractor. He owned a couple of payments, said they came to get the tractor because he got behind in the payments. They had a hard time. He told them, if you're going to take it, it will be in pieces. So they let him keep it. Catch up on payments. I can't imagine how hard it was in those days.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, Jerry, are you there?
That wasn't me, but whoever wrote it, thank you.
Jack Davis says that an old farmer told me that they had to drive a stake in the ground to see if the tractor moved. Not sure what that means, Jack.
Well, the tractors are really slow, so they didn't know how much movement they had unless they put a stake in the ground to see if it moved forward.
Oh, dear. Oh, gosh. Okay. You all have been fabulous, wonderful. Thank you.